Jewel, thanks for joining us here at Crystal Bridges.
Thank you.
I'm going to recite a lyric. It's kind of a bold thing to start an interview with, but if I could tell the world just one thing, it would be we're all okay. When that song comes on Spotify, sometimes I start it over again, and I start it over again because it's so comforting. Those lyrics make me feel better, and I want to hear it again and again. When I toured Crystal Bridges and this exhibition, I felt the same way, that there was this feeling of just this rolling comfort with each step that I took. Is that what you want people to take away? And did it comfort you in creating this?
It's very touching. I still, I tear up with hands to this day. I needed that song. It was medicine that I needed. And to have that touch the world and be also what the world was needing to hear too is such a sacred thing to be a part of. And it does feel like that for me with this experience that I've been lucky enough to create with Crystal Bridges. My hope is that this experience will help people connect to themselves and connect to each other and know that we can grow and we can change and we can do hard things in a community.
Tell me about the portal, and it's 3 spheres. There's this concept that you've created, and you express it throughout the whole experience. Explain that so people know what to expect.
I've worked hard in 3 areas of my life. One is music, which most people know. The other is visual art, which most people don't know. And the other is behavioral health. I've been doing that for about 25 years now. And so this exhibit really pulls all 3 of those things together. For the first time in my career, while I've been able to pull us all together in one experience. So it's called the portal, the 3 spheres. The idea is that well-being is a side effect of when we're traveling through these 3 spheres of reality in harmony. We each travel through 3 realms of reality every single day, often without knowing it. There's our inner life, which is our emotions and our feelings, our heart's desire. And then there's the seen world, which is our jobs, our families, finances, nature. And then there's the unseen, whatever you define that to be. It can be a spiritual definition. For some people, they just know they get chill bumps when they see the James Webb Telescope images. And so well-being is a side effect of these 3 spheres working well together. So if I know my thoughts and my feelings and I can articulate them to you, and you can hear me, that makes me feel a lot better. If my partner knows my desires and my heart's desire, that makes me feel better. If I have spiritual values and I can act on them in the physical world, that makes me feel good. If my job is something I love and it's what I think I'm built to do, that makes me feel good. And then the adverse is true. Conflict is a side effect of these 3 spheres being in conflict. So if nobody knows the real me, if I never say the truth, if I feel like my partner doesn't know me, if I don't get satisfaction from my job, if I have no sense of awe or inspiration around what's in the unseen realm, we suffer. And so the whole experience is designed to help people understand what these 3 realms mean to them personally.
What I was amazed to see as I'm researching this interview and researching a little more about you is that I believe you look at a lot of mental health and in your life through the lens of almost a scientist. You're creating these measurable metrics and really making sure that you do step 1 before you get to step 2, and then you measure that. I didn't realize any of that, and that's astounding. Is that kind of how you go through life?
I moved out very young. I moved out at 15. I left an abusive house, and I knew that statistically you don't move out and do better.
Right.
And so I wanted to feel like me moving out at least had a chance of me being happy. And so as I looked at it, I realized that I had learned an emotional language and that I had an emotional inheritance, just like I had a genetic one. I had a predisposition to probably drug abuse, to addiction, to abuse in general. And so if I was going to learn a new way of being, that meant I had to learn a new emotional language. And there was no school to go to for that. So that was very daunting and very frustrating. But at least it was kind of a clear goal, even though it was such a big goal of how do I learn a new way of emotionally relating to the world? And I quickly realized that having an idea doesn't make your life change. Just the idea of wanting to learn a new emotional language doesn't mean I would do it. It meant I had to have physical steps in the seen realm. Where do I start? How do I measure it? And is there a result? because the goal is to feel better. Like, there has to be a result. You have to be happier. And if I'm not, then I have to try something different. I have to behave different. I have to understand what's driving my behaviors. And so for some reason, I just had that approach, and writing helped me. And I had a talent for writing songs, and I had a talent for creating behavioral tools, which I didn't know what those were. It was just something that I was doing to make myself feel better, and my music and those tools combined really helped me. And now, luckily, they're really helping other people.
So it took so much maturity at a young age to see that and understand it. I read that when you signed your first music contract, you said that music would be your second career, and that your first career would be just learning how to be happy. So many people go through the entire lives and don't have that mental, emotional, spiritual maturity. Have you always had that? Is that from the minute you were a little child?
I've always been very perceptive and very sensitive, which is painful. It's really painful to be really sensitive in the world. So it's not that I had some sense of peace or anything like that. I honestly just felt so miserable, and it was so excruciating that I would do anything not to feel that miserable. And luckily I didn't want to end my life, and so that meant, now what? So now what? Like, what am I gonna do to feel different and to do better? And then I think like that pioneer spirit that I was raised with in Alaska just had a grittiness to it, and that combination ended up really paying off. But it makes it sound like, and I'm 50 now, it makes it sound like it was all like, it wasn't like that. It was a mess. It was messy and uncomfortable and painful. But looking back, I think my best talent has just been the stubbornness to say, I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna keep going. I'm willing.
You wrote Hands based on an experience in a dressing room, looking in the mirror and really assessing your life. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, so I had this ambitious goal when I was 15 to not be a statistic. I got myself through high school. I did okay. I had several jobs, I was paying rent. And then all of a sudden my life screeched to a halt when a boss propositioned me. And when I wouldn't sleep with him, he wouldn't give me my paycheck. And so I couldn't pay my rent. And I started living in my car. I had bad kidneys. I was having panic attacks. I was agoraphobic. I couldn't hold down another job because I kept getting sick. And I started shoplifting. And so one day I was in a dressing room. It was mostly food. I had always shoplifted food until one day it escalated to a dress. And I looked in this dressing room mirror, and I was shoving this dress down my baggy jeans. And I was like, I am a statistic. I didn't beat the odds. And it was so disappointing. I had such lofty ambitions to not be a statistic, and it was so just shattering to see that I didn't do it. Despite my best efforts, I still was a statistic. How did that happen? And I realized that I would end up in jail or dead if I didn't get a grip on it. And so that really became the inspiration to develop a whole new set of tools for myself, focusing first on stealing, because I knew that was the thing that would end me up in jail and make my life take a turn that I couldn't probably get to recover from easily.
That was step one.
Yeah.
That was a measurable thing. If I don't steal this dress,
yeah,
then I've made progress.
Yeah, but it wasn't that easy, actually.
Yeah.
I stole the dress.
Oh, I didn't read that part.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did. I stole that dress, and I went home, and that's really was like, but why did I have that realization, and why couldn't I change my behavior? Mm-hmm. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the amount of shame that you have? How do you deal with how powerless you feel? Why did I do it? Could I even look at why I did it and understand it? It took me 6 months to learn not to steal. It wasn't a matter of willpower, actually. It was a matter of building the awareness to understand the trigger that caused me to want to steal. And so I had to build so much awareness to notice the stimulus that caused me the urge early enough that I could then intervene and use my willpower to not steal. And so learning that it was a process and breaking that down into steps was really critical for me to having that success. But it wasn't instant, sadly.
That's interesting.
And change isn't. And I think that's something we don't understand often, especially with our more unflattering traits. We all have aspects of our personalities we don't like. And how do we change those? You can't just disassociate from them. So how do you work with them to get them to change?
And our society encourages us to hide them. And it's so fascinating. You put it out there. You're so authentic as a person, but through your music with your fans. Is that your greatest gift? I mean, you're obviously an amazing musician and artist, but is that authenticity what drives all of that?
I don't, it's been the greatest gift to me. I was really lonely when I was homeless, and I realized I kind of deserved to be because nobody knew me. I never told the truth. And so how could I feel connected to people? And how could I feel connected to myself if I wasn't willing to admit the truth about myself to me? And so I decided to start being honest. Decided to be honest in my writing and then to say it out loud. Like, again, going from the inner world to the seen world. And so my first show was me singing about all of it. The stealing, the panic attacks, my hopes, my dreams, the good, the bad. And there was only 2 people in this coffee shop.
They felt all of it.
They felt all of it. And they cried and I cried and they were like, I didn't know anybody else felt this way. And I was like, I didn't know anybody else did. And that risk was rewarded with people we hugged. I wasn't rejected. And I realized that the only freedom I could find in my own self was the truth. The truth always wins. And it really helped me in my career because I never used my art as propaganda to be more perfect than I was. And so nobody could knock me off of a pedestal that I never put myself on. And that ended up allowing me to grow and change over the years, and even leading to this type of experience where I still have a fan base that is interested in me growing. That's very uncommon.
It is. I'm going to totally pivot because this is more of just a selfish thing to ask you. Apparently the first time you heard your song on the radio, it was between Nirvana and Soundgarden. Yeah. Do you remember the songs that bookended it, and what was that moment like for you? That's joy.
Yeah. It was a surreal experience. I was driving down the road and my music was very hard to get on the radio, and finally in my local San Diego station they put my song on, and it was between these 2 grunge songs, and I think it was Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I can't remember what the Soundgarden song was. But it was just surreal because I love both those bands and I love the songs. My music is so different, and it was a surreal moment. It was also the first song I ever wrote. It was a song I wrote when I was 16, wondering if nobody else will save me, will I save me?
Who will save your soul?
Yeah. And so to have that be, I get chills, but like to have that be the first song, you know, that questioning, that me trying to be accountable for me was really special.
I mean, man, what about a listener on the radio that hears Kurt Cobain and then shifts to this Who Will Save Your Soul? I mean, that is a complete shift, and the magic of radio, I guess.
It was the magic of alternative radio at the time,
Welcome to the 90s. If you had told me in the 90s that I would be sitting in my hometown of Bentonville, Arkansas, in a world-class art museum with Jewel, talking about a drone show, you would have blown my mind, but here we are. How did drones and this advanced technology become part of your exhibition?
I really wanted to use 2 classic mediums, oil painting and sculpture, and then 2 new mediums, 2 new technologies. And so one will be a hologram video installation and the other is a drone installation. I feel like our relationship with traditional mediums is long documented. We've all seen paintings most of our lives, we've all seen sculptures. We even know something about the technical aspects of doing those things, even if we're not artists. And so people bring their own stories to those mediums. And so when they see my oil painting or my sculpture, they'll have their own relationship with it because they have their own relationship with those mediums as well. I think with new technology, we don't have any relationship with them. And so it's really like a blank canvas. And so as an artist, I really wanted to use those new technologies as mediums to try and tell a story and create artwork that was like a blank slate, where you might have a completely unprecedented reaction because you've never seen anything like that. And so for me, that was really fun.
And a drone show that starts with close your eyes, I won't ruin it for everyone, but take a breath. You're like, this is going to be an experience. That was our first drone show. It was amazing. So people do need to come out and experience that moment.
Yeah, this was such an amazing piece to put together. I created a 10-minute piece of music that takes you on a journey. The idea is that a portal opens in the sky and there's knocking. And we receive a message, and it isn't exactly the message we thought we'd get from the unseen realm. And creating it and using the drones as sculptural shapes in the sky was some of the most fun I've ever had, and some of the most like profound emotional connection I think I've been able to achieve in storytelling.
So the other aspect that I believe is going to be right behind you here is a sculpture and a painting.
Yeah.
And one of them is of your 12-year-old son. I'm a mother of a 12-year-old son as well. So I am going to see a whole nother story in that. Tell me how those came to be.
I really wanted to have the painting be of my son. Motherhood broke my heart open. It, as every mother knows, it expands your heart in a way that you just didn't know was possible. And it's such a devotion, and it's not something that's overly celebrated in our world. And it takes such an act of devotion. I think as moms we're so devoted that I wanted this painting to be an act of devotion. I wanted it, every little brushstroke in that painting is my love for that face. Oh, I'll cry. But I just love that little face so much.
Those boys and their moms, they are such a sweet
Oh my
joy.
gosh. Yeah. So to spend every day just painting that face and capturing that moment in time, this age in time, was just, it was a gift every day that I worked on it.
So I keep thinking about mine's about to turn 13,
Yeah.
and that's the emotion.
Yeah.
Where did time go? So this will be a moment frozen for you forever to have.
Forever. I know.
It's
You'll
the
get me
best.
going again. We got to move on.
Well, what do you want people to take away, personally, as they walk from piece to piece here and experience the drone show?
Yeah.
What do you want them to take with them in their lives?
I hope they see a glimpse into what the three realms mean to me. The painting of my son is the seen realm. The sculpture is a lucite statue of a person meditating full of medication, and it's about the inner realm. How do we relax? How do I relax? How do I have health? How do I not have health? And then the hologram is about the unseen and a message and a poem. And then the drone show is about how I combine them. And so I hope people learn about me. And I hope that by coming in this contemporary exhibit and getting to have this journal where you write down, I ask questions on these video screens, I hope you get to know what these three realms mean to you. It ends with a behavioral exercise, it ends with a sentence that changed my life. It's, I sacrifice my attachment to X and I dedicate it to Y. So I sacrifice my attachment to shoplifting and I dedicate it to being present. Something I used when I was young. Now that sentence for me is I sacrifice my attachment to perfectionism and I dedicate it to being present. And so everybody will fill in something that gets in the way of their three spheres working together in harmony, and one thing that helps them come in harmony. And then I developed a meditation that people can have with them every day when they go home to practice if they feel like with that sentence. So I hope they get to know themselves better. I hope they get to have an experience that connects them to their community and people next to them, and realizing that when we change, we make room for new things to grow in our lives.
What a beautiful way to learn a little more about yourself. Jewel, thank you.
Thank you.
What a joy to meet you and get to chat with you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.